So now we're going to have the introduction to the keynote speaker from Ernesto Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Be skilled in speech so you will succeed. The tongue of a man is a sword. An effective speech, stronger than all fighting. None can overcome the skillful. A wise man is a school for the nobles, and those who are aware of his knowledge do not attack him. No evil exists when he is near. Truth comes to him in its essential form, dressed in the sayings of the ancestors. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you someone who I've known for just a short while, who has made an impact in my life. This brother here is one of DC's finest. He comes right from this neighborhood around Akili. I'm going to take this moment now to read his bio before I introduce him to you guys. His name is Mr. Akili West. He was born and raised in a diverse political and socioeconomic climate of the nation's capital. Akili West learned early of the marriage between legislation, business, and jobs, and our position one's interests with opportunities which fiscal budgets create. An entrepreneur and activist uniquely situated at the nexus of education and renewable energy, policy, sustainable technology integration, and product and service delivery. Mr. West brings well-rounded perspective to the business of national energy independence. In November 2008, West co-founded Reclamation Energy LLC, RE for short, an energy company infused with a mission to help redefine, re-energize, and reclaim our energy as we view, created and used in the U.S. West fondly recalls RE's nascent goals of becoming a new type of energy company, one that helps billpayers save energy and money through holistic approaches to energy management, generation, and procurement. Today, its affiliated business and nonprofit initiatives are redefining our energy, sustainability, and jobs are represented and delivered. In 2009, West was invited to the White House by the President's Council for Environmental Quality to meet with the Secretary of Energy, Labor, Interior, and Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Identified as one of 100 emerging leaders in the fields of energy and environment, West and RE were asked by the CEQ to collaborate closely with the White House on ways to help inform and bring awareness to the President Obama's environmental and energy policy initiatives. Often called upon by both public and private sectors to contribute to the formulation of local, regional, and national sustainability initiatives, West has consistently been able to see ahead of the curve, where policy meets ground floor opportunity. With a keen and understanding of how legislation and policy initiatives create business and jobs, he has positioned RE to win key marketing, sales, public relations, and distribution contracts with innovative private sector clientele. Mr. West was raised in Anacostia neighborhood of Ward 8, Washington, D.C. He sits on the board of Far Southeast Family Strengthening Collaborative, the Healthy Families Thriving Communities Council, and is a founding board member of both D.C. Solar United Neighborhoods and the D.C. STEM Alliance. Please join me in welcome Mr. Akili West.
Wow. Sometimes when I hear that, I have to pinch myself as, what are they talking about? And that just goes to show you that sometimes, no matter where you come from, you can end up in a totally different place. So I'd like to, first of all, wish a good morning to all the young men and women of HRAP's 2016 graduating class. I'd also like to extend a good morning to all of the teams that support this graduating class, because teamwork makes the dream work. And that's not just a fancy rhyming saying, it's the truth. And I'm sure that you all can acknowledge that in your lives. So let's give them all a round. I'd especially like to thank Mr. Ernesto Rodriguez and also Daniel Bird, and all of the others who have contributed to this program, including including Laura May, Linda Whiting, Reverend Peters, and others. And if I have not mentioned your name, just know that it's out of ignorance, not out of forgetting you. But we acknowledge you all, and we appreciate you for this program, which you have brought to our community, a community that has consistently been plagued with unemployment. With no further ado, I'd like to say that I'm excited to be here with you today as you receive your certificates for completing your first round of training to become human resource professionals. I'm reminded as I stand here looking out at you all that this morning here in my home ward, Ward 8, Washington, D.C., that for the past 50 years, we've been consistently last in every category that we want to be first, and consistently first in every category that we want to be last. So when I say that, I talk about crime and murder, low high school graduation rates, single parent families, and yes, last but certainly not least, unemployment or employment. But as I look out at you today, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that this is changing with students like you, many of whom will go on to be on the front line of our quest for full and equal inclusion in the American workforce. Now, many of those who sit behind you have opened doors. It's up to you all to continue to learn and to step through them. Could I ask you all to please repeat behind me? If it is to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
If it is to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
If it is to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
And that's right, it's up to you to be better, to not take the same course that many of the PR professionals before you took, a course of discrimination, non-inclusion, only looking out for those who look like you. You have to be better. You can't carry on the same ways of those that have historically kept us behind. That means equal pay for women. That means making sure that an hour worked by a woman is of equal value to an hour worked by a man. That does mean looking out for people who look like you and who have the skill sets and the background necessary to fulfill the jobs that you all are positioned to give them. It's up to you to realize that the person who looks best on paper is not always the best person for the job. It's up to you to appreciate and fulfill the duties of your positions in the fairest ways possible. And it's also up to you to realize that and to look for diamonds in the rough, pieces of coal that have been acted on by the pressures of life and turned into diamonds in the rough. And it's up to you to find those and to help position them, polish them, and cut them into the whole diamonds, which we know they can all become. I'm reminded as I stand here of my work as a community activist and a community advocate. Over the past couple of years, and I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago when I was first approached, I was approached by some leaf season program workers who work for the Department of Public Works here in Washington, D.C. And they had a very real problem. Many of them had come from a background where they had made wrong choices, as we all have, and poor choices. Some of them had been to jail. And when they got out, the Department of Public Works was one of the only avenues for them to find employment. We were thankful for the Department of Public Works for opening those doors. But what we also noticed was that many people on the leaf season crew which is a seasonal job at the Department of Public Works, were being kept in a cycle of seasonal jobs. The glass door was right there, and they were not able to step through it into permanent family supporting jobs, which could help them to further get away from the past that had plagued them. So I gladly worked with them, helped them to develop their ideas and to voice them to the powers that be. We went in and we talked with the director of Public Works at an event. It was a Public Works Workers Appreciation Day, which they were not invited to. They had been laid off 2 weeks before this event. So we went and we crashed their event. And we spoke to some of the head honchos at the Department of Public Works. We asked them questions. We were fearless in our pursuit. We got them on video saying things that perhaps they wish they had not said, but it was the truth. We used that to open doors, to break down barriers. We took the workers down to the city council and we had them to testify in front of the committee that oversees the Department of Public Works. We wrote to the city administrator asking them to end this cycle of joblessness when you were essentially asking these people to help to keep our city clean from the deluge of leaves and trash and snow that came every season, and then laying them off. Their bills were full-time bills, but their jobs were not full-time jobs. Through our work and through our advocacy, we were able to change the system. We were able to get DCHR to reach out to us and to have us come down and say, how can we help to change this system? Soon after that, the head of the Department of Public Works resigned. Two of the other top heads of the Department of Public Works were fired. A new system was instituted that was supposed to bring transparency and fairness to the process, a process that had been rife with nepotism for years. This is an example of the type of advocacy that we all can do. And this is an example of the type of advocacy that as human resource professionals, you will be called on to do. Now, I have done a lot in the line of green jobs to try to open up the opportunities in green jobs to all people, regardless of their color. And what we saw was there was all this talk about green jobs on a national level, on local levels, but there was very little trickle down to getting people into green jobs. There was very little introduction for people in communities such as ours to green jobs. What were green jobs? How do you get one? How do you keep one? How do you grow into a higher position in one? So we opened doors to green jobs, not just as solar installers, not just as people that were taking solid waste and taking some of it and making it into recyclables or other types of things. But we started to look at businesses that could be created in communities such as this. Because in order to provide a job, there must be a business, right? So as you all go out, I want you all to think about all manner of jobs, all manner of opportunities, and how to relate them to people that may not know about them, and give them a look through the looking glass at what the possibilities can be. In closing, I'd like to leave you with an old anecdote that I'm fond of repeating. It never gets old for me. There was a person who wanted to change the world. So first, he looked at himself. First, she looked at herself and said, what is there I can do to change me? What is there I can do to change my own household? And after identifying those things, they went about making the changes. Then they looked out the window, saw their neighbors, and said, what is it I can do to change my block? They went and they talked with their neighbors. They found out what their concerns and what they were being faced with, and they figured out ways to help their neighbors. Then together, they and their neighbors looked at their community, and they said, how can we change our community? Because as we all know, our communities need a change in culture. We already have strong culture in our community, and we need to uphold those tenets of strength. But we also need to look at the culture that is bad culture, and we need to let it go. So they said, okay, here are the things in our community that are strong aspects of our culture, and here are the things in our community that we can let go of. And in that way, they changed their community. Then they looked out across their city, and they said, how can we change our city? And they identified things that could be changed. They identified things that they could put their time and their energy into in order to make those changes. And they incorporated the help. They brought in everybody who also wanted to see those changes, and they changed their city. And then they looked out across the country, and they said, we've changed ourselves, we've changed our communities, we've changed our city. How can we take that same blueprint and change our country? And that's what they did. They joined with like-minded people across the country, and they found ways to change their country. Not to make America great again, but to rediscover the greatness that already exists. So, in closing, I'd like for you all to repeat after me. If you can look up, you can get up.
Yeah.
Graduating class, HRAP 2016, please stand up. Please turn around and face your team members. Team members, look up at the graduating class of HRAP, Human Resources Program 2016, and stand up, please, and give them a round of applause. You may all have a seat. Again, as you've seen, changing the world starts with one person deciding to change themselves. Each and every one of you can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Mr. West, one of my alumni over there.